YouTube? It's your boy Willful Peace coming back at you once again with another video and a bunch of my 2 cents. Today I want to try to get at some of the conversations surrounding the Me Too movement and Aziz Ansari's accusations and all that good stuff. I'm gonna kind of try to power through this and keep it as condensed as possible because there's so much that can be said here. I want to let it breathe. I want to try to get into some of the guts of it, but I don't want to I don't want to get caught up in the weeds of having a one-sided conversation. So let me start with the Me Too movement. I support it. I feel like the movement is women against monsters, not women against men. And I think that's a very pertinent distinction to make. I don't feel that, men should be just sitting around feeling like, oh no, we're all under attack, because we're not all under attack. Just those of us who don't know how to act and who are really, really vile are under attack. And if you're not one of those guys, if you know that you're not one of those guys, you know that you're not doing the type of things that these women are bringing these men to justice for, then yeah, you shouldn't be worried, and you should also be happy, because the more of the monsters that we get out of the system, the more of the monsters that we get out of our society, the better it's going to be for the men who are just trying to have legitimate interaction with women. So yeah, this is the type of thing that I feel like it sucks that it has to come at the hour of tragedy, that all of this progress has to be made, off the backs of women who have endured that type of abuse. But that seems to kind of be the ongoing thing with change. Whenever real change is taking place, it's usually at someone's expense. And it's unfortunate, but, it's an opportunity for us to wake up in the sense that, we've got to do a better job of not treating sex, not treating sexuality like it doesn't exist, unless it's in the bedroom. I feel like there's so much that happens in our society due to a lack of proper education and a lack of proper engagement. Men and women, boys and girls starting at a young age get separated from each other socially to some extent, to where you're told, it's not right for you to be hanging out with all those girls, or it's not right for you to be hanging out with all those boys. But then we don't really show and educate about why the separation is taking place. We have to do a better job of chasing the ideal of where people understand and respect themselves enough to really hold on to their sexuality until their access to their sexuality until they're really with somebody who, they love, they care about, they respect, and they know who respects them. But in the meantime, we've just got to also deal with the real facts that starting at a pretty young age, our bodies change and our mentalities change, and there are all these new questions and new layers of complexity added to our character, and there's just things that we need help walking through. As young men, we need help on learning how to conduct ourselves when in the presence of a lady, the presence of a woman, And even in the presence, and sometimes really kind of, especially in the presence of a woman who doesn't respect herself. What are the rules of engagement for us, and where are the lines in the sand for us? Young women definitely need to be empowered and taught about how to identify intentions, and how to separate what they want from what is happening, and how to respond when the two don't match up. And then we've got to give both sides that we're trying to educate a real support system. We cannot continue to allow organizations to sweep instances under the rug. We can't allow it. The accountability has to go farther than the individuals who we go, oh yeah, that's a monster, but it's rare that monsters operate completely solo. And so, as a guy, if you notice a woman being harassed and you don't say anything, or as a woman, if you notice a woman, intentionally kind of misleading a guy or whatever, and you don't say anything about it, we don't say anything about it, we're just as guilty. We are just as guilty. So, we've got to do a better job of being adults. And I guess a lot of things in our society kind of could be attributed to that. So, there's a lot that I want to say and could say on, this particular topic. But I'll start the conversation there. Is I guess in regards to Aziz's situation, based off what I've seen, I don't see where what took place classifies as sexual abuse or sexual assault by my standards. I think it's really unfortunate that both of them were in a situation that they didn't make a good enough connection for them to be able to handle that as a personal situation. I think it's really unfair, and forgive me if I'm misspeaking about the details that have come out about that story, but I think it's really unfair that she, to my knowledge, this is all anonymous. So she didn't reveal who she is. And if that's correct, if that's true, which it may not be, I don't think that's very fair, because then it's like, well, yeah, we get to criticize what he may or may not have done wrong, but we're not able to personally or directly address her to say what she may or may not have done wrong. So, those are the type of things where, it's just got to be a continued effort to make sure that it is a push for equality, and I'll just kind of leave it at that on that note. So, I really hope that people use these situations and this movement as an opportunity to unpack the dialogue about the infantile and deviant education that a lot of men get about sexuality and about women in general, and that we use it to talk about the way that we value women in our society, what tools, what support system we give them if we, or that, I don't, see, just in the sense that I say we give them, like the fact that there just needs to be a lot of conversation around what position and what value women hold in our society. And we need to talk about how we engage our young girls and young women about sex, about intimacy, about, you know, about their right to say no, about their right, and not just their right, but to make sure that they understand that it does not make them, it doesn't make them less attractive or less desirable or, you know, socially unacceptable for them to tell a guy no. Like, it shouldn't be a society where we don't have a support system in place to where when a woman decides that she's not cool with a guy's advances, that she's left to fend for herself. I mean, I don't think a guy should have to fend for himself either if the roles are reversed. So, we just got to do a better job of taking care of each other. And, the world as we know it, as far as it goes with the interactions of men and women, can only benefit from us getting a deeper understanding of each other and taking more time to really flush out the details of what works. So, I just recommend to people that you have this conversation either in the presence of, or, if you can't have it directly in the presence of, reach out and put your commentary somewhere where someone from the opposite sex can reply to your stance, to your statements. Don't have these conversations in vacuums. Don't, and don't let the conversation just be only shutting each other out or pointing fingers or blame. Have enough respect for ourselves to love ourselves and look at ourselves as imperfect creatures and humble ourselves to say, yes, while I may think, even if you do think that things are fine, which I don't personally, I don't think things are fine. But if you're the person who feels like things are fine as they are and all this stuff, at least have enough decency to say, okay, that just because you think it's fine, that maybe that's not the end of the conversation, that maybe, there's room in there for all of us to grow. Maybe you have some points that can bring people to say, yeah, maybe we are making, we're making strides, not in the wrong direction, but maybe there's a different way of going about certain, education or the way that we handle these trials or whatever it may be. You may have some valid points, but you got to give room for other people to have valid points too. And, so I just hope that we as a collective understand that continuing to press down or to ignore these issues around our education and around our communication of the differences between men and women and between and about what should be and what oftentimes are not the consequences of men and women who do not follow the rules or who do not act accordingly. We've got to start getting at the heart of those issues. So anyway, hopefully I've at least started the conversation. There's a whole lot more that I could say on a number of elements in this, but I want to kind of keep this condensed down. So continue the conversation in the comments. If there's anything else in particular you want me to talk about, let me know. If you like the videos, give me a thumbs up, share the videos, subscribe, whatever. If nothing else, tell me I suck so that at least I know I suck. Anyway, appreciate y'all, and until next time, stay free.